What's up, y'all? It's the Relentless podcast where we're stirring up passion and purpose for marriage.
That's right. We're diving into topics you always wanted to talk about. Real life, real struggles, real love, and real results. So what are we waiting for? Let's go in.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Relentless Love podcast. It's always good having y'all. I hope y'all have been having as much fun as we have.
Oh, yeah.
It's been an interesting journey. In fact, we went live not too long ago, and one of the questions that we had that we didn't get to address was, how do you carve out time for your spouse? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Parenting can create so many issues in marriage. When you find your footing in your marriage, then you have kids and it's like, oh Lord, what do we do? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And that reminds me when we were first married and we had Savion right out the gate.
Yeah, honeymoon baby, man. He came right through.
He did. One of our attentions, I remember, was nursing. That was like a big point of contention for us.
Well, I mean, he had what I wanted. You know what I mean? Yeah, give me what's mine.
I had done my research. I had learned all the benefits of nursing for the baby, but also for me, it prevents breast cancer. All these things. It's easier. We don't have to get bottles and milk. And
I'm pro nursing, by the way.
He's pro nursing, but I have to say it was a thing. There was some legitimate jealousy, which we'll talk about a little bit. But I remember particularly when we would go out to eat, Brock was not comfortable with me nursing in public, even though I had like a cover. Mm-hmm. So I used to have to go in the bathroom stall, y'all, trying to respect him because respect is huge. And I would be sweating bullets trying to hold, because he was a thick baby, trying to hold him, nurse him, and he was greedy too. And I'm in there because I hate, y'all, that's one weird thing about me.
The bathroom, public bathrooms.
Public bathrooms, can't stand bringing my girls in there. It's just disgusting to me. So I'm in there trying to nurse my baby with the cover in the stall. Y'all, it was torture. Yeah. And even worse, like us trying to have sex. And like I'm nursing. We had to figure it out, y'all.
Hey, he got to get over there. Like,
no, not him nursing while we're doing it. I'm saying
we need some mom and daddy time.
Yeah, the co-sleeping, right? Those are real issues.
Yeah, no, definitely. Things that have to be navigated. Yes. Things about parenting. These are those not top tier topics of parenting that just are part of it and don't get talked about it a whole lot. But it's a reality of it, and that's a part of the unification. If you want to use some terms, the unification of the marriage, like the becoming one and understanding what we're gonna do. These are conversations that have to be had. They're funny, they're fun, they're real, but like, yo, we got a baby now. Like, we got a kid now. Like, what are the parameters, the boundaries? How are we gonna do this? Yeah, that's what we want to talk about today. This is not a one size fits all solution to anything. We got 20 minutes, 30 minutes we're gonna spend with y'all. Yeah, y'all's parenting is on all different levels. You may have an infant. You may be in the thick of having a 7-8-year-old. You may have a teen, or you may have a grown 20, 30-year-old kid. Right? Parenting does not stop. Yeah, we're parents forever.
Yeah, but we want to keep the conversation going. So definitely send your challenges, your questions. Right. And each month we're going to spend some time talking about it. So today, how do you spend time, prioritize time with your spouse when you have little ones? I think that's the more challenging season of life, is when they're younger. When they're older, they can do their thing. You can go out. But when they're young, it's hard. So how did we navigate that?
Yeah. I think you have to find your rhythm. Yeah. You have to find your rhythm as a couple, like what your job looks like. Yeah. What does home life look like? What are y'all doing? What were the goals prior to having a child? And how does the rhythm flow with saying before the child came? Most times, a lot of times, maybe not, but most times the marriage is priority now versus the child. Or if maybe y'all were married and then you had kids. We were married first. We're priority. Kid comes in. They need some attention, right? And they need a lot of it. But at the end of the day, my spouse is my top priority. So I have to not like, oh, this is an option. Like, no, I have to find time to make sure that you and I know that we are the number one thing in this family. That without us, these kids are not going to have anything, right? Yeah. If we're not healthy, they're probably not going to be healthy.
Now, the reality is, Brock said a rhythm. A rhythm is not like a one wave, right? Facts. So in a season where you have a newborn, husbands, understand that it will require more time and attention. Exactly. So priority in that season looks different than when the child is 3 or 4 or 12 or 14. So just give each other grace and understanding. Again, communication, do it as a team, which we'll talk about. Yeah. But it will require more time. However, I think for women, I think about that analogy. If your husband or your child is on a cliff, like which one would you reach for first? And if we're honest, women, there's a hesitation.
You gonna grab?
If we're honest, there's a hesitation because instinctively we're wired. I mean, you look at nature, we're wired to protect our child. So there is going to be a pause of, okay, wait a minute. Where are my priorities at?
And men probably naturally will say, grab the kid. Yeah. Like naturally we would be like, man, hey, get my son, take care of him. I'm good. Right. But in the priority sense of it, right? Like now I'm
going to flip the script. If we're honest, husbands would have the same challenge. Facts. If it was the wife and the mom.
It would be
on that cliff.
Everybody, you're gonna wrestle in any way. You're gonna wrestle, right? Yes. You're gonna wrestle either way.
So with that, we just have to have grace and understanding, but communication. So it is important to prioritize your spouse and your needs. So in that season where it's harder with younger kids, like date night might look like once a month. It might look like every other month. But we still have to plan. We need daily time to connect because that's where we felt like roommates. And it felt transactional when we were not prioritizing time outside of talking about bills and talking about what we need to do. Right. We just need heart-to-heart, face-to-face talk.
Yeah. And I was going to mention that too. Like the rhythm would be, what does this look like in the day-to-day life of, hey, we can't go out to eat, but are we sitting down and putting the baby over here in his section, and then we have 15, 20, 30 minutes of us that have a dinner date here, or we got the pillow talk time, or we got, hey, baby sleep, or whatever. We put Netflix on and we get a little bit of time and say, this is me and you, versus it just being all about him or her, all about the child, all about the child, all about the child. If you don't feel like a priority, then you probably aren't prioritizing each other as husband and wife.
And that's a legitimate jealousy. That's a real thing. Like a husband should not feel second to a child, even though they have needs. Right. So you just have to figure that out. A husband should be number one, second only to God, and same for the wife.
Yep. And so it can be logistical, right? It may not always be spontaneous. I'm a spontaneous person. I like to just go with the flow and all that. But in that context of our marriage at that time, going with the flow meant he wanted to eat all the time. He needed to be held. She couldn't put Savion down with she put him down, he's screaming. Anybody else hold him, he's screaming. He go crazy. So I was legitimately like, yo, this is like, even though that was my son, I was having feelings of like, this is really like irritating me and getting on my nerves.
And in my defense, I didn't have a lot of family support nearby. So it's different when you have a broad support system where you can let them watch the kid more often. It was mainly me with him. Every now and then we had extended family, but then it was hard for him. He cried most of the time. So, and I was with him all day. We couldn't afford to put him in daycare. So there's no guilt or shame about that if you have that. And with the first child, that's normal. So husbands, give your wives, give them a break.
You gotta understand, figure it out, logistics wise, even emotional wise, figure out a healthy way to process, but then figure out how can I strategically set this up to where we can spend time. I don't feel like I'm second fiddle. I don't feel like I'm not important, and we can work together to create that. And it's gonna look different for everybody. But the important thing is to know is that even though you have children, your spouse is the top priority in the family, right? Don't mean you neglect the child. Don't mean that you abuse a child or nothing like that. It just means that let me seek the well-being of my spouse first to make sure that's good, and then, child, and figure that rhythm out.
And it's important for the marriage, obviously, but it's also important for the kids to know that. The kids cannot think that it's all about them. We are enabling them and crippling them if we make them think that. They also need to see what a healthy marriage looks like. And if you are all about the kid and making the kid happy, you're actually not modeling a healthy family system for the child.
Right. Definitely. Partnership.
Yep.
key to any marriage is partnership, is sharing everything, sharing the burden, sharing the load, sharing the responsibility. And now, so like, historically, it's kind of been put on the woman to raise the children, to take care of the home, and to do all that thing. I want to challenge that just a little bit, right? It's not mainly on the woman; it's a team effort.
Yeah.
But the main responsibility of a household being healthy is for the man.
Yeah.
You should be teaching your children. You should be nurturing your children. Mm-hmm. You should be coaching your children. You should be taking care of your house because you are responsible for that. And children came from you.
Yeah.
So if anybody's raising these children and having input in that, it should be a husband being involved and not being disconnected and just being away. And so that concept should create some partnership and some tag team. Don't just unplug from this responsibility, because what will happen is one person is going to get wore down.
Yep.
With parenting a child and raising a child. And then what's going to happen is there's going to be some, if y'all not communicating well and it's unhealthy communication, there's going to be some resentment, some bitterness, some frustration, some anger, some hatred sometimes, right? And like, I'm doing everything and I'm raising these kids, I'm spending all and you ain't doing nothing.
Right.
You're not even a part of it. And we all know what that's going to create, right? There has to be shared responsibility.
And I'm going to speak to the ladies. Take the cape off. We are not Superwoman. We cannot do it all. We need a break. So even if you are called to stay at home, that is worse than a full-time job. Not worse. It's the best thing ever. But you don't get to clock out. You don't get breaks. You don't get paid. So when the husband gets home, let him, give him an opportunity. See it as an opportunity for him to be engaged. I hear too often women saying, oh, well, I know he's had a hard day, so I just, I want to make sure he's good and give him a break. You need a break too. So you need to be honest and real about that, because that resentment is building up if we're honest. But even if you feel healthy and you're good, the kid still needs that shared connection with both parents. So step back a little bit, give your husband, he may not do it just like you do it. He may not fold the clothes the way you fold them. He may not nurture the baby and get him in the routine like you want, but that's okay. The kid needs that.
Yeah. I'm laughing about the folding clothes thing because I hate the folding clothes. I grew up folding clothes, right? And it didn't bother me as a child. Like, I think as I became an adult, I was like, this is pointless. Just put it in a drawer, except for bath towels and stuff.
But then he gets frustrated when he can't find.
But then so that's the whole thing about folding clothes, not folding clothes. Like, man, I'm like, whatever. But it's true. And in partnership, but also in the parenting style.
Yeah.
And then understanding, going back to that individuality type thing, like the way you do things and the way I do things may be different in style.
Yeah.
But in the idea of how we're going to accomplish something should be the same, right? It should be love. It should be a goal-oriented of teaching, discipline, or loving, nurturing, feeding, whatever, playing with the child, whatever. It may look different, but the goal is to create health and growth and whatever we want to accomplish with it. But I don't need to box you in to how to do something, and then you don't need to box me in on how it should look like. It should be a partnership in that, because the way you talk to the kids may be different from me. Yeah. The way you have fun with the kids may be different. The way you do something may be different. But if we approach it in judgment, don't touch him don't pick him up like that. Why you da-da-da-da-da-da. Now it makes the person who will be like, well, you just do it all day.
Right.
You got it. You just do it and I'll just leave it alone. Because anytime I do something with the kids, or I'll try to talk to them or handle something, you're attacking me or you're judging me, which then creates a step back or distance. Like, well, you know what?
Which is not partnership. Yeah. Right. So there's two issues there. It's, we don't want the one spouse to withdraw and not engage, but then the other side, you don't want to create an atmosphere where they don't feel a part of it or they don't feel welcome showing up as they are. Now, I will say there are some unhealthy ways to parent, and it takes time. But until, if you don't come in with a common vision on how to parent, that creates a lot of conflict. So I would say that as often as you can in non-conflict situations and times, try to talk about how you want to do it, educate yourselves and decide how we want to do it. There's gentle parenting. spanking. Like I'm thankful we agreed, in some cases that's been necessary for us and our kids. And there's nothing wrong with that. But depending on how you were raised, there can be judgment or certain beliefs for or against something, and that can create odds. So what are your thoughts about that, Brock? Just that difference of opinion or perspective on discipline and how that can show up.
Yeah, like you said, and kind of how I was saying earlier, like the goal is to arrive at this. The styles may be different, but it's the communication of how we're going to get there and how we're going to agree and come to a decision of oneness about this is the way we're going. Now, again, the style, I'm not talking about like actions. I'm talking about just the expression of it may look or may sound different or look different, but the technique and what we're doing to get there is what's going to be unified. And so you have to talk through it, right? And you have to not judge or shame somebody for having a different perspective, but saying, what are we willing to compromise for the sake of the child or for the sake of us and our peace and sanity, right? Because the kids, depending on their age, they need to see that y'all are on the same team. Yeah. Because what's going to happen, and y'all already know where I'm going with this, they're going to be like, well, I know I can get what I want from mama. I know mom's going to take. I know daddy going to be, I know I can get whatever I want out of dad, or he going to do da-da-da-da-da. And then they get to playing and manipulating and putting y'all at odds against each other. And that's not what the family needs. There needs to be a unified front. There needs to be a common vision, a common direction. There needs to be some compromise and agreeing on what we're going to do and accomplish. And then there needs to be execution of it. And y'all don't need to show the vision in front of the kids. And discipline is one of those things where it's a big thing when it comes to parenting. But you have to figure out a way to agree on what y'all are going to do. The longer y'all stay opposed, well, I'm going to do it this way and I'm going to do it this way, you're going to get problems.
Well, one thing specifically for me being a boy mom for a long time before we had girls, and my son is so like tenderhearted and different, and Brock is like, I mean, you see Brock very passionate, and, it's created a lot of tension in that, which has created tension in our marriage talking about it. But what was, I think, freeing for me or encouraging for me, I had a really good friend and mentor say, God knows what my son needs. And God chose my husband, knowing his style, knowing how he is, and that's what he needs, and trusting that. So I think as a wife, I would just encourage other wives, like, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not right, trust that, number one, God's in control. His grace is going to cover it, but he's leading your husband. He knows what your child needs, and he's deposited that in your husband, and vice versa for the wife. So I think until you figure out a rhythm, it's trusting that, and it's going to work out. And our son is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the way we've approached our discipline aspect, and I know we're kind of riding that a little bit because it's important. It's a little bit important, but like the way we've approached it has been open-handed. Yeah. It's been moldable and flexible because there's seasons of life with your children where something that you need to do right now looks like this, but a little bit later down the line, it looks different. Right. And then it looks different here, and then it looks different here, and then it may go back to this here and there. And so being flexible and open and communicating in a way where it's safe to talk about it has given us a lot of power over it. And it's not been a negative, oppressive thing, but it's been kind of more of a freeing thing. Like, there's times where you tell me, babe, I don't think they need that right now. There was times where I wouldn't want to really hear that from you. But since we got to a place where we want to work together and we're more open and respectful and honoring, and we got a common goal, now I can hear that and be like, okay, I need to back off. Yeah. Okay, spanking really ain't what's cool right now. We need this. We need to do that. And that's partnership at its finest in different styles, but also in communicating and saying what's necessary right now, what's not necessary.
Well, one thing too that I personally struggle with, we have to have boundaries with the kids, and even in our physical space. I know you've expressed on many occasions, like you want our bedroom to be a sanctuary, like it's off limits to our kids. So
not totally, but just,
it depends on the moment.
Yeah, it's situational.
You don't want them to have all access.
Yeah, I don't want it to be free reign. Yes. Like you can just.
Whereas the way I grew up, right, wrong, or indifferent, I grew up. We played hide and seek. I hid. My parents had a water bed, so we would like hide under there. And so it was an adjustment for me because we never talked about it. So you were building a frustration that I would just allow the kids come in, but we hadn't talked about it. And so I'm thankful finally we talked about it. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. That was the thing. That was an issue for you.
Yeah, yeah. And that's parenting. Like parenting is more than feeding the kids and taking them to school and all that. Parenting is, okay, this is our master bedroom, right? Can they just run up in our room? And now how are we going to parent and steward that access to the home? What can they do? What they can't do? Like those are conversations in the marriage where a lot of times we go into it and we just assume that everything's gonna just fall into place.
Right.
There has to actually be some conversations around this because for me, my master bedroom is kind of a place of peace, sanctuary. It's like where I know that everything's gonna be where it is. Ain't nobody going through my stuff. Nobody's in here destroying nothing. And I can come back here and feel like I can breathe without the kids jumping all over me. Right. And in your experience, it was different. But if we just walked into it and assumed it was going to be one way, you're going to get what you get, which is conflict.
And felt dishonored every time that was happening. So I had to adjust and reinforce those boundaries. And, you know, now the kids, they still,
look, we getting ready to make love. We getting ready to make, I'm like, yo. You cock blocking, bro. Like every time they got a sixth sense.
They do.
To when love making, funny. We finna do our thing, and then they just need something, want something, gotta have something, or they fall off something. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, really?
Even when we're just hugging, they'll like come up and try to get in the middle, especially the baby.
All of that,
She's
bro.
So physical touch is her thing, so it's like a jealousy, and she's like, "No, get back."
Yeah, man. Hey, that's parenting.
Yep.
Hey, that's parenting. Like you gotta teach kids, and we try in the best way possible, in the most appropriate way possible, model for them that me and my wife or me and my husband, we're in love. We love each other. Like we're gonna hug each other. We're gonna kiss each other. Not in no like super passionate type of way, but we're gonna. Like this is us. We are priority number one. We love y'all. We good. But me and daddy are special to each other. And we are on one accord. And we are a team. And this is my queen. And I'm the king of the house. Y'all are princes.
Yes.
And princesses.
Yes.
But
give back.
I'm valuing her first. And we're gonna do our best to give y'all everything that y'all need and make sure that y'all grow up the way y'all need to grow up. But understand we on the same team and we need each other. Me and my wife do, and we're not on opposing teams in this marriage and this family.
Yeah, because they will try to come get in the middle, and that's natural. That's just kids being kids. But you have to be preemptive, be proactive, and have a plan to have that united front. So kind of what we do is when the kids ask for something, did you talk to your dad?
Right.
Would your dad say, or I'll wait before I just say yes? And that can be frustrating, but we just know our kids. We know our kids.
Right. Yup. I will say too this, parents and couples learn how to have healthy conflict in front of your children and making decisions and showing them like don't always act like everything is just, perfect and dandy in your home and that you're correcting them every time they get in an argument or disagreement with their sibling, spouse, or they have some kind of emotions towards you.
Right.
And you treat them like they're wrong. Like, show them that it's normal to have emotions. It's normal to have disagreements. It's normal to have conflict. But here's a healthy way to handle it, right? Because sometimes you can tuck all of your disagreements away in the back room because you don't want to portray something wrong or flawed in front of your children. And then they grow up not even seeing an example of how to process their own emotions in a good way. So we've learned that we haven't had any kind of like huge blow-ups in front of our children. If we felt like we was getting to that point, we would take it somewhere else and not even blow up, but just like, this is something we need to talk about later or back here, not in the car, not right here, whatever. But if that's something where we can talk about it, and we don't need to go in the back or like shut it down. Let's do it in a healthy way and like show them that, oh, mom and dad had a little disagreement, but they worked it out.
Otherwise, they go into marriage with this unrealistic expectation that you're never going to have conflict. That I've never saw my parents do that.
Right. For a teen, especially for teen kids that are just now dating and stuff. Like our son's 14, 15, and he's starting to like interest in girls and stuff. And I'm just saying, like, bro, every girl ain't gonna just like you like that.
Right.
There's gonna be some times you might say something when you're out with a girl and she may not agree with it, and you don't need to feel like, oh my God, I'm not perfect. I messed up. No, you've seen me and your mama talk about stuff and she not agree with me, and we kind of have a little, but then we circle back around to it. It's normal. Normalize it, right? And normalize treating each other with respect, with honor, with dignity, right? And with a servant's heart. And then you'll get a lot of great results out of that. But that's a part of parenting too, is like, how do you handle showing and displaying that in front of your kids and teaching them what it means to have healthy dialogue and healthy conflict too?
Right. So a few do's and don'ts. Don't bicker, don't dishonor, don't escalate in front of the kids, but do model that healthy communication conflict.
Right. And triangulation.
Yeah. Right. Triangulation is when you're picking sides. So oftentimes there's, your kids will come to you as an outlet, especially if they see you as a safe parent. You never want to out the other parent, throw them under the bus. So you always want to honor and respect them, but you do want to be a safe place for the kids to come, because we want our kids to be able to open up. You just have to be careful with that and still maintain that united front. But we will come back and have conversations like, hey, babe, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we are not perfect. We're figuring it out. But again, at every stage, you face different challenges. So I want to normalize that. It is normal to like, you feel like you don't know what you're doing.
Facts. Facts, man. Facts. You learn some things along the way. There's tips and tricks and stuff that people pass down. We're passing down some now. Some of them are foundational. Some of them are like, man, this is kind of how our kids are. Everybody's different. Yeah. But like, don't feel like you're just like a huge failure as a parent. Like when you're just trying to figure it out along the way. Because kids evolve, you evolve, your experiences evolve, your starting line and what you come through evolve.
Every child is different.
Everything is different, right? And one place I will say you need to analyze yourself is like, do I have a willingness to grow and change my ways? Or am I just being stubborn, stuck in my ways parent? Yeah. I think that's a place where you can evaluate, like, am I being moldable, flexible? Am I being able to learn and grow? Or am I just being stubborn and stuck and saying, nope, this is what it is? If you're like that, you're going to have a very difficult time being involved in your children's life and like being a influence. Yeah. Having influence in your life when you can't adapt and shift, and keep love as the foundation over it all.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, so don't just take everything you see on TikTok and Instagram and reading in books and thinking you can apply it to parenting or in your marriage. We talked about that. You have to figure out what works. Even what our parents did, you can't just assume it's going to work. You have to sit down and say, how are we going to do it? What is our way of doing it? But like Brock said, also being flexible in different seasons. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the kids need to know that it's me and mommy, me and daddy first. Mm-hmm. Because we are going to be together when y'all are gone, when y'all are grown. Facts. We still need to be solid.
Facts. And don't let parenting tear your marriage apart. Yeah. Prioritize that marriage first, because like she said, the marriage is going to be there when the kids get grown, at least whether they like you or not, right? Y'all are going to stay. But also, like, if you are not healthy as an individual first and then as a couple, how can you give your children something that you don't have?
That's right.
How can you model or teach your kids something that you don't even believe? It has to be in you first. And so I think that has to be an inward. And we can always hit the pause button, stop and do that. So don't think it's too late or whatever. Like right now, you find yourself in a place where you feel like, man, I am unhealthy. Our marriage is unhealthy. Our priorities are out of order. We're not prioritizing each other. Okay, well, right now is a perfect time to hit the stop button and say, let me reevaluate and let me do something different And for those like for us that we Christian, faith based, following the Lord, man, modeling our life after Jesus, like solidify that the Father's heart towards you and his love for you and the way he teaches and gracefully walks alongside you and tries to build you up and tries to pour into you the things that are going to make you good and even sets healthy boundaries for your life around you. Take that model into parenting in a gracious, merciful, forgiving, respectful way, but also in, hey, I'm an authority just not because of me yelling or dominating over you. I'm an authority because of my love and because of my sacrifice for you and because of my heart for you and my kindness towards you. And allow that to motivate your parenting, allow that to motivate your marriage, allow that to be the nucleus of what you do. When you do that, and you can always course correct along the way and know that you're leading from a servant heart and not a domineering, destructive heart.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is I know it can be challenging with blended families, but that concept of priority still applies. You may have been with your kids 14, 15 years, but this new husband is still priority over those kids. And it's a lot that you have to work through. Therapy is needed. Sometimes you need a strategy, but y'all have to be united. You cannot make the spouse feel like your kids older, no matter how long you've had them. And if y'all need help with that, reach out. Don't just struggle through that. It's a real thing. We'll probably have other couples come on and share from their experience.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. I think that because that's so prominent, co-parenting has another nuance to it because you have other parents that are a part of the parenting process and communicating around that, setting boundaries, but also setting freedoms around that and what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. All of that matters, and there's a way that you can do it, but it just involves healthy communication, vulnerability, and safe
boundaries,
spaces.
And you have to guard your relationship.
Yeah. So this is good. This is really good talk, man. I actually would love to keep this going because parenting is forever.
Yeah.
And so as our kids evolve in different stages, I think there's even more deeper conversations we can have around where does this go? How do I do it now? Even getting a little bit more precise. And what happens when your kids get grown?
Yeah.
How do you continue that parenting and still have the boundaries and the safe spaces around your marriage and all that? So I think that's great, man. Hopefully y'all love this and enjoy this, man. Y'all have any questions, anything y'all want us to cover, let us know because we want to give y'all the best specific, customized, is what I want to say, customized presentation in our podcast to address all y'all's questions and concerns and topics that y'all want covered. So thank y'all for tapping in with us, man. Parenting questions, send them our way.